The felony charges of false imprisonment against Ashlee Buzzard, the mother of 9-year-old missing Melodee Buzzard, were dropped in court today. But with that said, Melodee, her daughter, is still missing. And tonight we try to unravel every disturbing twist and turn in this story.
Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning journalist, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. This is the global phenomenon, the show that brings you the very best guests in all of true crime. I got an email from Namibia today, so that is why I'm back on the global phenomenon. I don't know what it is, saying the whatever it is. You know, you get the point. We're going to be discussing the latest in the it's going to be hard to speak tonight. In the disappearance of 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard. It is a story that has spiraled from the use of wigs and changing license plates on a road trip out to Nebraska and back to a alleged box cutter confrontation, and now a judge dropping a major charge against Melodee's mother, Ashlee Buzzard. We're going to break it all down. This sounds fairly insane with all the things I just threw at you, but this is real life, and real life is stranger than fiction. First up here, she is a former UK homicide detective. She is a wonderful human being, knows everything, and she specializes in hunting down human and sex traffickers, and she is Nina Hobson out of the UK. Next up, he is retired homicide detective Phil Ramos, 3-time Officer of the Year in Las Vegas. Guy drives a Harley. Very cool dude. And our condolences go out to you, Phil. Phil lost his mother-in-law the other day, and that is always difficult. So STS Nation is thinking of you. And we are supposed to be joined, by the way, by a third guest, Michael Clayton, who is a Central Coast attorney, which is in that Santa Barbara area near Lompoc. Michael Clayton was going to help us break down some of the courtroom goings on. Sometimes with the West Coast, especially new guests, the time change is confusing, but hopefully Michael will be here and we'll get that all sorted out. So, Nina, let me just start with you very broadly here. The timeline very quickly, October 7th, which is well over a month ago. Ashlee and Melodee, her daughter, leave a place called Vandenberg Village in Lompoc, California, in this very kind of, suburban neighborhood. She rents the mother a 2024 Chevy Malibu, maybe one of the more common cars in America. Both are in this rental place wearing wigs, and that day they start traveling. The car is returned 3 days later, but Melodee does not return. And now it is November 20th. How concerning is the passage of time when you've got a missing 9-year-old? Oh, you're muted, Nina. I'm going to have to unmute you. I don't know who. Let's see here. Why you're muted. You're actually not muted, but we're not hearing you. Talk to me. You know what? I'm going to have you go out and bounce back in. And now we're down to one. I don't know why. Phil Ramos, if you go, it'll be a soliloquy on my part. But listen, Phil has done it all. Before homicide, he was undercover narcotics, literally seen, heard, and done everything when it comes to law enforcement. But missing children have to be among the toughest cases that you work, especially active missing children. But this element of time, October, I believe 9th is the last time that she was seen on camera. And now it is literally November 20th. So it's basically a month and 10 days. How troubling is that is the case?
Yeah, it's just these cases are so hard in the first place. And then, we've been several weeks now, no progress at all that we know of. They may be making some headway, but they're keeping it close to the vest, and I get that. It's something that you have to do until you can get a little bit farther down the road. clearly there's no PC for an arrest. We don't even know that a crime's been committed. She could have, some people are speculating, well, she took her to a friend and she's being cared for and she doesn't want anybody to know where she is. And that may be the case. I seriously doubt it. But if that's the case, there's no crime. As long as Melodee's being cared for, properly cared for, nurtured, and depending on who she's with, the mom just decided that's what she wanted to do.
Let me just stop you there real quick, Phil. So this is a total hypothetical. Let's say she met someone that she doesn't, some people say she's in sort of a paranoid, even a schizophrenic state. She's had mental health issues. Apparently she's been hospitalized before for them. Let's just say she happened to meet someone, man or woman, it doesn't matter, online. She doesn't really know this person. And this person says, well, I'll care for your child. And I live on the Utah-Colorado border. She drives out there and hands her child off to this person. You're telling me there's nothing criminal about that. She's allowed to give her child to someone who potentially is a stranger who's now just watching her kid.
Yeah, I mean, there's no crime against that. The crime would come into play if harm came to Melodee while she was being cared for by these strangers. And then the impetus would be on the mom. Why did you have so much trust in these people or person or whoever it was that you left your daughter with, and now she's in danger? But just when you think, you're making a little bit of headway, then this bizarre development today where they dropped the charges against the mom for pulling the blade. And when I saw that, I thought, okay, now we're going to get somewhere. Supposedly she had pulled a blade on this guy because he claims she uttered some comment about where Melodee was. And I thought, bam, now they're going to find out. But it turns out that wasn't the case, man. What a disappointment. This guy, I don't know enough about the internal aspect of what he told the cops, what he alleges that she said to him to pull the knife, but it turns out that it was nothing like that at all. So it's just a huge disappointment.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that. There was a court hearing yesterday that lasted 1 minute, and then she was back in court today. Now, this had nothing to do with Melodee per se. This had to do with this false imprisonment where she apparently held someone against his will. And that's interesting because apparently she audio recorded the whole thing, and she wasn't holding someone against their will. And so the charges were dropped, and we'll dive into that. But Nina, I'm hoping you can hear me and we can hear you. The question I asked, and Michael is, hey, Michael, how are you?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep, you see and hear you, which is always
well. There I am.
Yeah, we'll be right with you. I appreciate you being here. But Nina, to you, I like Michael already. The question was, the last sighting of her, I believe, is October 9th or 10th. It is November 20th today. From your perspective as a former UK homicide detective, and someone who's extremely interested in human trafficking and sex trafficking, and that's sort of your passion. I mean, what about the time factor? It's got to be a huge detriment every second that clock ticks.
Yeah, and have you got my audio now?
Yep,
Joel?
I have you. Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, it's every investigation that we do, time is of the essence, but I just want to talk as a mom first. I understand what we're saying, Phil, and, she may be cared for, there's no offense. But the fact as a mom, somebody somewhere cares for this child enough to be saying, talk to the police, tell us what you know. As a mom, even if she's safe, and even if you did something and you handed her over to someone you believe is the right thing to do, talk to us. But there's none of that. There's been none of it. And it's very hard as a mom to not go into that, well, something's really wrong and there's guilt and it's on mom. And I understand there's no crime at this point. It's considered a missing from home. But yeah, as a mom, I struggle with that fact. But with regards to time is of the essence in every crime that we look into, gathering evidence that could be lost because time has passed. So we've got a 9-year-old that's been missing for over a month.
Mhm.
So we need to make sure that everything that can possibly done then, as I'm sure it was by the police, and moving it up again now, we have to locate this child, whether she's safe or not. We need to know what's happened. And the person who knows right now is mom.
Yeah.
Mom was the last person with her. And, we look at the scenarios and the wigs and the hiring the vehicles, immediately something's very, very wrong here.
Yeah, for sure. Michael, please meet retired homicide detective Phil Ramos and retired UK homicide detective Nina Hobson. Michael Clayton is an attorney practicing not far from Lompoc. So, Michael, were you in court today by any chance?
I'm in court every day, Joel.
Were you in court for this hearing today?
No, I was not. I'm not quite sure what courtroom it was in. I was not following it. I had a number of cases to be in court on. So, but I do know the family in this case very well. I'm very good friends with the grandmother to the little girl, and she is extremely beside herself and will not talk to anybody about it because she's very upset and she has her own feelings about it. And of course, that if you look at it, and I haven't heard the commentaries that have been made before me right now, but if you look at this mother's not saying anything. She's not saying where her little girl is. She took on a trip up north, almost out of the country, and came back down through Kansas. They were wearing different wigs to disguise themselves. What did all that mean? They had a different license plate on the vehicle. What did that mean? Trying to disguise your vehicle and who you are and why? What does that add up to? And like Nina said, the little girl's not here and she's been gone a while. So it's very serious. And I'm sure the detective will probably tell you that you want to have the perpetrator in your sights at all times. So in this case, we're going to go back and we're going to charge her with a criminal offense. What can we get? Well, we have this from a while back. It's kind of sketchy, but let's go ahead and charge her with it. And let's go ahead and put her on pretrial release so that we know she's not going to leave and she's going to be in this area, because the main focus here is the little girl, not this other crime that she's being charged with. It's separate from this. And why are we charging her with this other crime? It's textbook. I'm sure the detective has already told you that. It's textbook. We want to leave her in this area so that we can keep her right underneath our microscope so we can find out where this little girl went. And until that happens, we do not want to lose this mother, because once we lose the mother, we've lost this case. And that's what it was all about to begin with. And there's a problem here. And the problem is that mother knows something and she's not saying anything, which makes this Hershey suspect number one. And they did a 1275 hold hearing on it to determine the source of any funds that are going to be coming out of any bail that took place. I don't know what the 1275 was all about. That may have been today. I don't know that. But their attorneys had to prove where she got the money from. So if some benefactor out of Kansas ponied up $100,000, we want to know about it.
Yeah. And I'm going to get to that because that's a big part of the day. And apologies right now to both Detective Ramos and to Detective Hobson, because Michael is in this area. How far are you in Lompoc? How far are you from Lompoc?
I'm in Santa Maria, sunny Santa Maria, California, which is an hour and a half north of Santa Barbara, which is about 30 minutes north of Lompoc.
And what kind, I'm just curious here, I've got a couple questions for you, and then we'll spread it out a little more equally. But what kind of play is this getting on local news there?
Huge. This is like the flavor of the moment, huge. And everybody is watching and waiting to see what's going to happen next, because something's going to break. Something's got to go down. We got to figure out something regarding this little girl. And I'm sure there's so many FBI on it. It's only a matter of time before they figure out when and where this happened. And then we're going to find out exactly what's going on. Maybe it is that she was put into a sex trafficking ring. Maybe she's still alive. But if she's passed away, this mother is going to reap the rewards of that. She's going to be potentially looking at the death penalty, but not in the state of California. In the state of California, you don't get the death penalty here. We voted for it, but you don't get it here. There's a lot of things you don't get here, and that's an ominous feeling I should throw out to all your listeners and viewers out there, because just in a couple of years, and I don't want to go political on you, but he's right around me. He's in my back door, okay? He's in my backyard. Gavin Newsom, you want high gas prices? You want all the good stuff that California's enjoying right now? Boy, you go ahead and vote for that guy. Other than that, vote for your dog, okay? If you don't want to vote
Michael,
for him, vote for your dog.
I love the passion. We do try to stay away from politics because no matter what anyone says, you will get hate mail. And well, I will, but it's all good. It's all good.
I feel for the little girl, and I hope she's okay. But the mom's got issues.
Yeah, for sure. So the most pressing thing, the most recent, not pressing, but the most recent piece of news is Michael, she was sort of being held, not sort of, she was being held on this false imprisonment charge. There was a 1-minute hearing yesterday. And then today, the judge drops the charges because this woman comes in and has an audio recording. I mean, how unusual is this? Are you surprised? That's her in court today. She looks a little different than the other day. Her hair, I'm not a wig expert. I don't know if you guys weigh in and tell me if that's a wig that she's wearing there. But Michael, from a legal perspective, the charges were dropped because of this, apparently this audio tape. I guess the judge just didn't have the legal means to hold her anymore, in terms of legally speaking. So he had to let her go. And as you said, that's problematic in terms of keeping an eye on her.
Right.
Can you tell us, but legally, why did this happen?
Okay, that is in Department 9, and the public defender is the one in the blue-gray suit right there. That's Adrian Galvan. He's a very smart, very good public defender, very nice friend of mine. And the judge in that case has been on the bench for a couple of years now. His name escapes me for a minute, but if the judge let him go, it's because that's because they didn't have the evidence. And if it's that flimsy, which I bet it was, because they're trying to use anything to hold this lady in check. They're trying to use anything to keep her here. And they're grasping at straws right now in a last-ditch effort not to have this lady disappear. Because if she disappears, so does the case. And there's nothing left there to go after.
Nina, I got to come to you now. People keep saying, well, maybe she's being sex trafficked. Listen, it is so hard for me I have 3 kids, right? It is just so hard for me to conceive of, a mother potentially falling into a trap where she hands her kid off or knowingly does it, God forbid. Just talk to us for a minute about the reality of sex trafficking. I just have such a hard time understanding this, that kids this age can either be bought or sold or brought into these sex trafficking rings. How does this happen? How do they operate? Is this, in your opinion, an actually real possibility here?
Sadly, Joel, it is. And I've worked cases where mom has sold the child, whether it's for cash, whether it's for drugs, whatever the reason, sex, it happens. And I know everybody on this screen right now thinks that that's the worst thing in the world, as our listeners do, but as it is, but it happens, and that's a reality and a possibility. And I just wanted to go back to one of the things that Michael said, and I'm actually not too far away from the location either. I'm the other way to you, Michael, towards LA, but me, Joel, I'm all about, sometimes the press need to keep their nose out of cases, and right now the press need to be in this case. We need to make sure that every part of America knows that this is happening, so that every part of America can see whether we can find this little girl. And so the press, for me, please keep doing what you're doing and get this out there, because if this little girl isn't found, maybe she has been trafficked, maybe it's worse, and she's no longer with us. But whatever the case may be, we have to find her. And mom has to be the person at this point that has some pressure placed on her. Obviously, there's been this trying to hold her with a criminal account. And the FBI are involved in this case now. And the FBI will be doing FBI stuff. And, you know, someone at some point, and Michael, you know, the grandmother has got us, not the grandmother particularly, but somebody somewhere knows more about this. This young girl was, you know, she was remotely schooled. Maybe there's a reason for that. Someone in the community knows these people. The mom and
the family is very upset with this mother. Very upset with her. So I can share that with you.
Yeah, no, I you know, and what is happening with the mom? Like, she's a lone wolf that no one's in the family is able to put any pressure on her. The police aren't able to put any pressure. At what point does this become a criminal case? And I'll ask you, Michael or Phil, with regards to, you know, we don't know what's happened to this young girl, but mom does. Don't we? Isn't there some kind of duty of care? And I don't know, from a neglect point of view, something that they can turn to put some pressure on her. And you probably know that.
Yeah, Phil, I'm gonna let you jump in there, but real quick, Michael, we had I don't know, do you know Michelle Hernandez? We had her on the show, and she's very tight with, I believe, Lily, who is Rubiel's mother, the man who passed away, the father. Is that the grandmother who you know? I believe her name is Lily. That's who you know?
Correct.
Yeah,
that's correct.
And how is she? I mean, doing? When was the last time you talked to her?
I talk to her every day.
And she's totally broken up. I mean, how's she dealing?
She's not.
Yeah. All right. Well, pass along our sympathies. I mean, that's all. I wish we could do more. But Phil, what about this question from Nina, legally speaking? Then I just want to get back to this court issue today. But you know, it's interesting, Phil, to hear you say, well, she could potentially be dropped off with some stranger, you know, 3 states away, and technically it's not illegal. But what is, like, what can they hold her on now? What can they do?
You know, there's so much speculation, Joel, and Nina's 100% right about that. I mean, we have got to get to the point where your responsibility as a parent is to provide safety, security, nutritional for your child. But we don't know that that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't take a swing at that fastball right now, because if they miss, they could, and it turns out that it's really ugly, that could really jeopardize the status and nature of the investigation. So, you know, I feel for the cops that are working on this, but there's a lot of tools available. You know, Nina made a good point. The FBI is going to do an FBI stuff. In other words, you can bet there's wiretaps. You can bet there's digital electronic surveillance on her. You can bet that they are watching her 24/7, both physically, digitally, and they know pretty much everything that she's doing 24/7. She's going to know that as well. But I think the biggest problem we have, the big red flag here, is her mental health. Mental health is the root cause of this entire incident. It's documented. She's being treated. She's had history with mental health issues before. To what degree, you know, that's protected information. They can't really reveal that. But the fact that this child is missing, there's no indication that she's not okay. But there's no indication that she's no longer among the living either. So it's such a gray area right now for the cops to walk, because, you know, they're chomping at the bit. They want to find her, and if hopefully they'll find her in good shape. But, you know, 35 years of doing this tells me this poor thing isn't coming home healthy or alive.
Yeah,
Phil's got
that definitely that detective intuition. I hope that that is not the case. I mean, we live in a wild world. I mean, there are a lot of people in California who are literally probably serving life sentences because of the 3 strikes you're out for smoking weed. And then you got a mom who, I don't know, loses her 9-year-old, and there's nothing you can do with the laws. It's a little bit backwards. Michael, to you from Jody Arrington, good question here. And then I've got I've got endless follow-ups tonight, but why don't they subpoena Ashlee to produce Melodee by a certain date like they did with Lori Daybell? So I don't know, last week when we did this story, when they first arrested her on this false imprisonment, they also said within 72 hours, we're going to arrest her. That never happened. What is happening here legally, Michael, from your understanding?
If I'm the district attorney, I think I'm going to go for a Hail Mary, and I'm going to file a charge against this lady for child neglect or child endangerment felony. And I'm going to prove that she's not here and that this lady was in charge of her. And so where is she then? I'm going to prove a prima facie case that this little girl is in danger because she's not around. She cannot be identified as to where she's located. The mom's not saying anything. So we believe that there's child endangerment or neglect here. And then it's up to the mom to come forward and say and prove her innocence by saying, here's my child.
Yeah. Michael, what about this? Someone's asking, isn't changing out license plate at least some sort of misdemeanor that they can hold them on? Or what about driving? Apparently, the plate is not registered. Aren't there certain things like that they could at least hold on to her with?
That's true. And maybe the detective can help me here. I think she was doing that running through Kansas. So I think the jurisdiction would be in Kansas to try and bring some sort of action against her wherever that occurred. I believe it was Nebraska.
I mean, I think she went out to Nebraska and back. I don't remember personally. I don't remember hearing Kansas, but by the way, I have to look at a map of the United States, but Kansas might be. My daughter's doing geography, and I told her, you just got to memorize the map, which I've forgotten since 6th grade. But, I don't know if they made it all the way to Kansas, but maybe Nebraska is certainly a state that was mentioned. But Phil Ramos, let me go back to the court hearing today. And we've got some sound I want to play. Our friend Brian Enton from News Nation, he's out there and was chasing down some people. We're going to play that in a second from News Nation. But Phil, so the dismissal today of these charges come after Ashlee Buzzard was able to produce an audio recording that was played in court, and the audio contradicted the alleged victim's story. This guy, Tyler Brewer, who said he was being held against his will. Well, they hit play on the audio, and apparently there was nothing along those lines, which is just complicates the matter for investigators. What are they saying to each other tonight? I mean, now we got to deal with this guy, Tyler Brewer, who's apparently making stuff up. And now this woman can just be on her merry way. How problematic is that?
Yeah, it's very problematic because, number one, they thought they had a lead that they could follow up on. It turns out to be a bunch of bull. But here's a side note on that. Look how slick and sly this mom is being. Who records a regular conversation with somebody? There was some intent and purpose in her doing that. Maybe she was testing the system to see what would happen, and she threw out a little tidbit that was just barely enough to be interpreted as, oh, hey, she said something about where she put the kid, and that's why I'm going to the cops. So hopefully the detectives that are working this really put some pressure on this guy. Tell us exactly what she said. Tell us what you know. Because if this turns out bad, you could be an ancillary individual involved in this. So, as it turns out, it wasn't anything like that. But this mom is playing games, and I'm sorry to say that she's getting away with a lot of stuff that they just don't have an answer to. Going back to Michael's question about the plates, it would be a fictitious use of registration, and that's such a minor equipment offense that nobody would arrest her. I mean, so many vehicle violations and equipment violations have been decriminalized to not even a citation, just a warning, and get that taken care of. And we discussed that. Who do those plates belong to? How did she get them? Where did they come from? That's a big clue right there. But then she takes a plates off, puts the regular plates back on. So it's like, time out. Yeah, I put that on.
Why would she do that? Why would
Exactly.
she do that?
Right, exactly. Unless she knew that she was going to a place where she's going to be monitored or looked at or searched for, and she wanted to put those plates on there to throw people off. But then why would she put the regular plates back on? Well, because she had to return the rental car back to the place.
Yeah, and Nina, I mean, one of the issues here, and I'm no psychologist, but we've had him on this story, and it's being talked about publicly in the media that apparently she's had mental health hospitalizations and she's extremely paranoid. How does that complicate the situation? Because, number one, she's not talking, but if she were, it'd be hard to, I guess, trust potentially what she's saying, or even, be able to try to verify it, because you don't know if she's just pretending to see or hear things and tell you things that aren't really happening. I mean, how complicated does it get with a significant mental health problem on behalf of the person you are trying to investigate?
Look, I mean, it does change things for us as investigators, but if we've got some kind of story from mom, we're going to look into that story and we're going to turn every stone in relation to that story. But at least there's something for us to work with. And again, I'm no psychologist, but two things I think right now. So we're using, the mental health is particularly bad and we're so paranoid and we're having hospital stays, because I can't say that word. But so if that's the case, are we not looking more closely at the ability to protect this young girl? So we should be able to be monitoring a daughter and a child more, because we already are aware of the mental health issues. So firstly, that's a system kind of thing. But mom also appears super smart. And Phil said it, is actually playing games. And is it paranoia, putting a wig on your daughter and going somewhere to change plates on vehicles? Or is it smart? And is it a case of, I don't want to be seen, and maybe by the time I've done whatever it is and I've potentially got rid of my child, everyone will be coming and looking at the CCTV and the vehicle that I was driving. So there's an element for me that is, mom's smart.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, Phil, she had the wherewithal to audio record this guy, Tyler Brewer, and then get her charges dropped. So this is not like a person that's completely incompetent and incapable. Another adjective could be she's conniving. She got this guy to speak and had these charges filed, and then she shows up and says, not so fast. What does that tell you?
Well, I'm going back to when we spoke about it initially, is although the information is restricted because of confidentiality, somebody has to know what her actual diagnosis was. What type of mental health is she suffering from? There's so many different types of mental health issues under that blanket of mental health. Knowing what her specific diagnosis is will give the investigators an idea of where she's coming from. What is she thinking up here, and what would the possibilities be? So that's when you call in your forensic psychologist, forensic psychiatrist, and say, tell us what you think. Give me a profile based on this lady's diagnosis and the circumstances. Give us your best shot on what you think has happened. I mean, there's always a possibility that, yeah, she's fine, but I'm going to wait for a lightning bolt to come through my window before I fall into that one.
Michael, I'm coming to you in a second, but Nina, I've read this too, that apparently there are all these texts. I'm still not 100% clear who this guy Tyler. At first, he was described as a friend. Then he was described as a process server. Michael, do you happen to know who this guy Tyler Brewer is?
Process server. That's about it. Local process server.
But now, Nina, there are apparently 300 text messages between them. Obviously, police have had to have gone through them. But what do you do with this guy Tyler Brewer, if anything?
Well, right now, their opportunity with him may have disappeared. And I think Phil said that earlier. But I would be going back to him and talking to him again, finding out more of what's happened. Obviously, we're not going to be able to go back with that offense and re-hold her on that. But he potentially is the only lead I understand right now. So they can still talk to him. But I mean, they're never going to be able to hold her with anything. I mean, look, I know personally the mental health situation and how it works. And I've also been involved with cases where, you know, children have been killed and the parents and the people around them have been very cool, calm, and collected and played the right game for the media and the police. And we look at this lady and nothing is being as a mom should respond. And we can't say that on any, you know, we can't say, oh, a victim of this crime should respond in this way. That's not how it works ever. But as a mom who has lost a daughter for over a month, it's very, very calm. Now, that could be the degree of mental health, but it's, to me, it just feels like mom knew what she was doing would get looked into and has made sure that she's tried to hide all of that for whatever, whether that's a mental health reason, whether that's mom being smart, or whether that's, you know, we've sadly taken our child to somewhere that they should not have gone. But you look at every picture of this lady and it doesn't appear that there's anything there.
Yeah. I'm actually
jump in real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
Because Nina made a good point about let's go back and talk to this guy and, you know, put some pressure on him. The only problem we have with him now, and I think Michael will be able to tell you, his credibility is gone. He's got no credibility at all because of what he said at first, and now it's been disproven to the point where a judge says, get out of here, you know, have a nice life, get on your bike and go get ice cream. If he comes back and starts talking about ABC, well, okay, that's great, but you've got no credibility now because you lied to us in the first place.
Yeah, that's a great point. Jody Arrington clarifying, and this makes sense. Tyler is a friend of hers that is also a paralegal and process server. He went over to talk to her after he heard what was happening with her, and that's how that makes a little bit more sense to me because, you know, why was she even sort of speaking to a process server in the first place? But yeah, in that regard, it would make sense. Now, Michael, you talked about this a little bit at the top, but apparently today, there's something known as a 1275 bail hold. Explain again what that is and why that was, I guess, issued by the judge, I would assume.
Judge was Judge Dunkel, and this was in Lompoc. And the 1275 means that if you're bailing out, you got to just show the source of where the funds came from. And that's usually in drug cases, a 1275 hold, because they want to make sure it's not coming from drug funds from that. So to have this in this case, it's quite obvious. Connect the dots. We want to know where she's getting her money from, who's ponying the money up. If this is some cartel or something, we want to know about it, period. And to say that she was wearing wigs and the daughter, and she changed her license plates to something else, kind of speaks to premeditation. So if this little girl turns up dead, then all that's going to come down to a murder one charge, and all those factors will come into play big time.
Yeah. Phil, is that what it's called in Vegas? Is it a 1275? You have a different name. You got to have something similar, right?
Yeah, we have a different name for it. I don't know exactly. It's been a long time since I've had to deal with those kinds of circumstances. But yeah, most states have a very similar statute regarding that kind of information.
And it makes sense on drug charges. So here is a PI that is working the case for the late husband's family. This is the person Michael knows, the mother on that side of the family. And this is Brian speaking to this private investigator, courtesy of Brian Enton and News Nation. And I'm not bitter at all that Brian started his YouTube channel over the summer and has double the subscribers. But you go, Brian. Here we go.
Had photographs of Melodee. They didn't take up the entire poster, but they were snapshots that were projected onto the posters. So I understand that she had cut these photographs off of the poster,
So she cut Melodee out of the missing poster?
out of several of the missing posters.
And why would she do that?
Not sure, but what she did with them is she placed them on a table in her home. To me, it represents an altar. Not saying that she's deceased, but it's something that she can have some memory of. And that's what I picked up from that.
Fascinating. I'm going to play it back with no Nina. What do you make of that? So he's telling Brian Enton that on the missing poster, she was literally cutting out the face of her child and then putting it into like almost what is described as an altar in her home to sort of, he didn't say she was dead, but maybe to remember her by. What do you make of that? Apparently this PI, by the way, is pretty well known, which we'll ask Michael about.
What do I make of it? I can't make anything of it because again, it says mental health right there. And I know that we've mentioned that, but why else would you do that? Because it's not normal behavior. None of this is considered normal behavior with a 9-year-old. It's that's the thing right here is a 9-year-old is missing, and I don't know what to make of that because it's bizarre, it's weird, it's strange, it's scary, and maybe it's right that it is her way of having this shrine or this altar to a child that's not here, but yeah, I mean, that just says totally mental health. But I'm not 100% buying that at this point with regards to the way it's been. And I think Michael said the premeditation aspect of it, but I'm not the doctor and I'm not the psychologist.
I mean, the more we talk about this case, just the weirder it gets. I mean, Phil, you can't make this up that the mother is cutting out her daughter's face from missing posters that are obviously going out to try to find her. And you heard this whole issue of the altar. What strikes you about that other than the mom doesn't want her found, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, that's chilling. If I was working this case and got that information, I'm thinking she's gone farther down this hole than we even know. What is going on in this lady's head to cause her to do all this stuff. And like he said, every development, it gets more bizarre. And, Nina hit it right on the head. This is big red mental health flag with that kind of activity. No doubt about it.
Michael, number one, do you know this guy, Bill Garcia? Apparently he's got a good reputation in your neck of the woods. Do you happen to know him?
Just don't.
Yeah. There you go. So I guess you're not that well known. And then the second question is, what about a mother going and essentially defacing missing child posters? Is there anything in the law that I know these are very specific, sort of minute things that you might not know off the top of your head, but do you happen to know if there's any legal repercussion with going around doing that?
No, unless she doesn't own the posters, and then it's vandalism. Other than that, she can do what she wants with her posters. And I remember a few years back, a lady that drowned her 2 kids in the back of the car. And when she went to the kids' funeral, she was shooting silly string on their funeral, over their graves. And I thought that was very strange of a mother to do that. Cutting out images and putting them up to remember my little girl. I don't think that's far off the beaten path. But when you look at it and the whole scenario, the fact is that the lady's not saying squat about where she went and where her little girl may have ended up. So that is back, she's the suspect number 1. And they're just waiting to find any clue to get to that little girl, get anything to go ahead and convict this lady. That's where it's going.
Michael, I'm impressed by you, by the way. I'm a Jersey guy, and if I didn't know better, I would think you're a Northeast guy. You're a little blunt, but I read that you're from how does a guy from Arkansas end up in Central California?
Go figure that when my mom moved to a little town called Lompoc, and it was Lompoc that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so I went down there to visit, stayed there 6 months, and then the Challenger blew up. They left Vandenberg base. I moved to the big city, which is 30 minutes away, Santa Maria, which has got 100,000 people in it. That's big enough for me, and I enjoy it very much in this area. You don't know, looking out my window, whether that's winter, spring, summer, or fall. It's 72 degrees here year round. That's what I got.
Michael, I'm in Miami, man. 72 is below freezing for me. I would be wrapped up in my mink coat. I cannot do 72.
I hear you.
Way too cold for me. Yeah, I was at my kid's soccer practice today, and I was gonna, I don't know, wrap myself in something. It was too chilly as it dipped below 80. But I digress.
But you know, the parent, the family to that little girl, the extended family is completely upset and beside themselves, very upset, wants answers and wants them yesterday. And it's so frustrating not to get the answers. And you're so close to that little girl, you can still smell her. You're so close to that little girl. Where is she? And why is the mother not saying where she is?
100%. Nina, I think you wanted to jump in there real quick. It all goes back to the fact that there were 0 current photos, which we'll get into. But Nina, I think you're.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Michael. Obviously, you've got a connection with the family. Is there anything that you can share with us about the relationship between mom and her lovely daughter prior to this incident? Were there any concerns that they had about their relationship prior to this incident? What's their feeling?
I know the grandmother very well, and the grandmother is a very given lady, and she's given to all of her grandkids equally. And when we talked about her grandkids, we ran through the numbers of her grandkids and stuff, and she would tell me about each one of them and what each one of them was capable of doing and all the wonderful things they were doing. Now all she talks about is the one grandchild that she cannot see. Where is that grandchild? I want to see that grandchild now. And she wants answers. And gosh, I wish I could be the one to provide them to her, but that's just not possible for me. So it's left up to the trained professionals of the FBI and the local states. And I bet you they're coordinating it with the 2 or 3 different states in there and coming together to try and figure out this path of travel that she took in order to find that little girl. And I agree with the detective. I don't know that she's going to ever come home. And that's just a sad thing. And so this little girl is going to be found. The FBI is not going to let this go until this little girl is found. And once this little girl is found, then the conviction is going to take place on the evidence that's around that little girl. Because every body has evidence on it. The detective will tell you that. And it'll be something in there that will point fingers to the perpetrator. And that hopefully, and we're all here praying that that's going to take place. I know that because we all want justice. So
yeah. Tiff Knox, who knew, longtime OG of STS Nation. Tiff, do you actually live in Lompoc? And if you do, and if you know anyone, either way, email me, survivingthesurvivor@gmail, and let me know how it is out there. Brian Enton, man, he's everywhere. He is ubiquitous, but Brian Enton doesn't have 3 kids, and I would be homeless if I was traveling as much as Brian Enton. But the guy is the best at what he does. I think categorizing as a missing child is a little misleading because technically she's not missing. Her mother knows where she is. Phil, we can address that, but also apparently there's just, aside from surveillance footage that they got her in the rental car agency, there's like no photos of this little girl except for like when she's 3. And the grandmother, I believe the same one who is friendly with Michael, has come out publicly to say that Ashlee has literally isolated Melodee from quote unquote the entire world. How does that factor into your calculus when you're investigating this?
It's something that you just have to keep pounding away at. Eventually, somebody on her side is going to be able to give that one sentence comment, and that'll lead them in a certain direction. But I think that the viewer makes a good point. Technically, she's not missing. The mom knows where she is, as far as we know. She was the last one to see her.
What do you make of this comment, Phil, that she's not really missing because the mother does know where she is? I mean, is that accurate? Is that fair?
Well, no, I mean, that's just a play on words. She is missing because nobody knows where she is other than the mother. So, and the mother's not saying. I mean, for all we know, the mother doesn't even know where she's at, and she doesn't want to start pointing fingers, and she doesn't want any more attention than she has. But I keep going back to what's going on in her head. And the other thing that we're missing here is that, and Nina can tell you this, how many hundreds of children disappear every year like this. I mean, it happens all the time. Thank God this one is getting the attention that it's getting. But there's kids out there that disappear just like this, and nobody ever hears about it.
Yeah, which is crazy. And I'm just going to say what the elephant in the room wouldn't want me to say, which is typically you have a white girl like this, 9 years old, adorable. Those are the ones that make the headlines. It's not the Native Americans, the indigenous people, the Black people, the Latinos, the Hispanics. No, it's usually. But I'm actually surprised as a former traditional media guy that this is not getting even more play, that it's not getting more attention, because this is so I don't know, there's so many twists and turns, and it's like tailor-made for quote unquote TV with the wigs, the license plate. By the way, speaking of that, I'm recording a show right after this tonight. We never stop working at STS. It's going to air next week, and we've got a real live A-list Hollywood producer. We've got an attorney who works for a little company called Google and YouTube, and the great Steve Cohen. And we're going to be discussing the elements of what makes something. There are a lot of true crime stories out there, but what then makes it into a docuseries or a movie and gets and has it get all the attention? I can't speak tonight, but you get the idea. This is now. So look out for that next week. I also did a pretty interesting one-on-one interview with Dick Harpootlian of Alec Murdoch fame, and I found out some things that you'd be surprised about. And I also talked to Ruth Markel today. All that is coming next week. Tomorrow, I had a fight with her again. I hate doing it, but my mother, she said, I saw her yesterday. I said, we're doing a show Friday at 1. She said, I'm not doing it. It's Thanksgiving next week. I'm like, what do you have? You have nothing to do. I mean, you have nothing to do. She started to raise the middle finger at me, but she realized she was in public, and I was able to talk her into it. She's coming on tomorrow, and it's going to be about Anna Kepner, another horrific story. An 18-year-old goes on a cruise and ends up dead, and now they're pointing the finger at the step brother, and a lot of strange family dynamics going on, and Carm was a family therapist, so we're talking that tomorrow. Okay, so this is Sebastian Rogers is still missing. Think about him often. I don't know how that ever ends, but thank you for reminding us of him. This is now Ashlee walking out of court today, and Brian Enton doing what reporters do, chasing her down. Let me guess. I haven't seen the video. She doesn't say anything, but let's watch.
Can you tell us where Melodee is? Why aren't you saying anything to law enforcement, Ashlee? Why have you just stayed quiet when your daughter's missing? It doesn't make any sense. Why did you cut her pictures out on the posters? Everyone just wants to know where Melodee is. Everybody just wants to know.
You guys back up away from the car, please.
Where Melodee is? Why aren't you...
Brian is so nice that I'm actually almost surprised that she didn't just stop and tell him everything. Nina Hobson, I mean, just watching this, this is a reporter, one of the best, if not the best true crime reporter in the country, asking her, saying, we just want to know where she is. What do you make of, I mean, it sounds like you're asking her about, some kind of gambling ring that she's a part of, or some embezzlement, that she'd be embarrassed by. She's just walking away, zero emotion. What do you make of this?
And I think you nailed that, the zero emotion. So she's a mom of this missing child. And again, there's two reasons. For me, the mental health is so bad that we're unable to even understand what's happening here, or we know exactly what's happened here, and we can't risk saying one thing, because that one thing will be a lead to the FBI. They will, anything she says now is going to be jumped on. She knows that, and I struggle to see that as a mom, and I know probably we're all parents on here. I know you or Joel, but like, oh, it's my daughter that's missing. Yeah, I'm gonna say something to you, just something, but she can't. She
I
can't.
mean, this is where if I'm in law enforcement, you want to just, grab her by the shirt collar, and you can't do that, which has got to be this. I could never be a police officer because of that. You want to just maybe just smack around a little bit to try to get answers, but it's not going to happen. Phil Ramos, and I'm coming back to Michael right after that, but Phil, one of the sort of interesting things that people are pointing out compared to the other court appearances, she's a little more put together. She has makeup on. She had no makeup the other day. Do you think this is coming? I'm curious. Is it coming from the attorney? Do you think it's coming from her? She just seemed so out of it the other day. At least today, she's somewhat sort of put together. And I don't mean that from like a purely physical standpoint. I'm just saying, like, from a psychological standpoint, what does that tell you?
Yeah, I mean, that I'm sure she's being counseled and saying, look, you got to put on a better appearance. But the thing that strikes me about this footage is her body language. She's stiff. Doesn't have any kind of swagger. She's holding her arms together. She's clasping her hands, stone face, looking straight ahead, no emotion at all. See her grabbing her hands right there?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a self-soothing thing, and that speaks volumes to me. She's either dying to say something or scared to death to say something.
I got to say,
I think it's getting down. I think it's getting pretty close to her making some kind of revelation.
Of all the best guests, I think Phil Ramos might be the coolest. And I'm not throwing Phil Waters under the bus, but the fact that this dude is like looking at her hands clasp, and he's done. You guys know that Phil Ramos carried $1 million in cash through a hotel casino undercover to get the Cuban mob. That takes a large, and then he gets shot at. Imagine these stories. The most exciting thing I do is I go grocery shopping occasionally. But Michael, since you're not the investigator, let me ask you, I mean, what did you make of the fact that her and her daughter are wearing wigs and the license plate change? I mean, you're an attorney, but you're a resident of this area, and then you hear this mother does this. What went through your mind when you heard about that?
I would have thought they were just dressing up, having a fun time if that little girl would have come back. But because that little girl didn't come back, I'm thinking the worst. I'm thinking that it's the mother duped the little girl into dressing up to disguise herself so that mom could whisk that child away and give her away, sell her, kill her. I don't know. But today's case that happened was in Lompoc. And I believe when I looked at that video again, the DA in that case was Jordan Lockie and Judge Dunkel. And in a preliminary hearing, all you have to do is show that there's just a peppercorn of evidence, just a very small little bit of evidence, not whether she did it, but could she have done it? That's all a preliminary hearing is. And then if she could have done it, it goes to the jury to decide, did she do it? So at this preliminary hearing, the joke is you can hold a ham sandwich to answer at a preliminary hearing. Were you there when this happened? That you could have done it. The ham sandwich could have done it. And in this case, it speaks volumes because they couldn't hold her to answer because they had nothing, less than nothing. And so why is that? The DAs are very good. They're very smart. My hat's off to the DAs because in this area, they're very knowledgeable, and there's no way they would have filed a case with such thin evidence unless it was to hold this lady in check until we could figure out the bigger case. And I'm sure that's what it was.
But Michael, you said earlier, you do think that in the very near future, this DA is going to file charges of some sort of criminal charge, and go after her even without knowing where Melodee is.
If you don't ask, the answer is no. And I'll bet you anything when they come down to it and it's down to the last thing, they're going to go ahead and they're going to file something against her. It'd be sad to not give it a go and file at least child endangerment or child neglect and say, where's the child then? A prima facie case is you're the owner of this child. Where is that child? You're the parent, and you're supposed to be in charge of that parent. So you either pass the baton off to somebody else and let us know, or it's you. And she has a right to come back at that jury trial and argue that, oh no, my child is fine. My child is over here or over there, or no problem. And she has that right as well.
Michael, I'm curious. I mean, is this the kind of thing that on top of being, just on the local news, if you go to a local place to eat, are people talking about it? Are they,
Yes.
They are.
Yes, this is a big topic in this area, and a lot of people are scratching their heads wanting to know who done it, what happened, where is she?
Someone said the Bureau is waiting for her to rent a car, which she tried to do the other day. She tried to rent at 2 different places. She's got credit issues because I think she filed for personal bankruptcy, and that's where that 1275 bond comes into play, because she might not have money. So they want to know where the money is coming from. Does anyone know how long the FBI is involved? I think fairly early on, because they cross state lines. And Nina, early in the show, you got a couple of chuckles because you said the FBI is going to do some FBI stuff. What does that mean? What are they going to do? Phil said they're definitely wiretapping. They're listening in on her phone, I guess. But what else?
Look, and that's the thing, and Phil will probably agree that we don't want to give away every FBI secret. I do know that the FBI in that area are particularly good. The FBI are really good anyway. But I actually don't want to say what they'll be doing, because sometimes, back to the press, Joel, it's best for the investigation and for the recovery of this young lady and a conviction, if we need one further down the track, that it's things like that aren't discussed anywhere, and let the FBI do their job, because they are pretty damn good at it.
Yeah, you gotta respect Nina. Look at that. She's holding the seat. I'm gonna call Scott Duffy after this show and say, Duffy, what are they doing right now? He'll tell me to buzz right off. Phil Ramos, we talked about this the last time you were on. So apparently she goes all the way out to Nebraska, but the last sighting is the Utah-Colorado border, which is, a place of extreme interest to law enforcement. However, it's also unbelievably isolated out there.
Yeah.
I mean, Phil, what do you do? I mean, there's only so much you can do, but if you're working this case and it's consuming your every moment, what do you do about trying to go to this vast wilderness essentially and look for somebody?
Well, I mean, you start with where she went to Nebraska and why she was there, if you're able to find that out. And, her cell phone's going to be pinging towers all over the place. So I'm sure that they focused on that area where she got to Nebraska. How long was she there, and when did she turn around and start coming back? What they haven't divulged, and I don't have a problem with it at all, is how they were able to determine that that's where she was last seen. They're on that border with Colorado and Utah. And I've been on that road on my motorcycle, and man, I'll tell you what, it's like the road to nowhere. There's literally hundreds of places where you could just pull over and never be seen again. It's just vast, beautiful country, but it's vast and it's empty, and you can go get lost, or you can go hide, and nobody will ever find you. So if they have a little bit more narrow of a location, except for the border between Utah and Colorado, I mean, that's a very big border. They start running cadaver dogs out there and see what they could come up with. But that's on the assumption that a cadaver dog is going to find her. We just don't know, man. We just don't know.
I'll tell you this: if I went to the Utah-Colorado border, my kids would find me in 0.3 seconds somehow. I could never escape them. I'm in Nebraska, and I haven't seen this on the news here anywhere. It's weird. Hey, I guess news doesn't travel that fast. I said it earlier in the show. I'm actually surprised that this is not getting even more attention. But Nina, if you were working this case, if you were actively working this case, where would you be right now? Like, Are you working a timeline? Are you looking at a particular piece of evidence? Where are you? How do you know where to be?
I mean, we're going backwards at this point, and I just wanted to make one quick point on the Utah thing. We've had other celebrity cases in the last few years. Celebrity, I don't mean that in the sense, I mean it in the media sense, that certain cases, as we've just spoken about, gets more attention. And we've had recent cases. Gabby Petito went missing in the Utah wilderness, and sometimes people who want to get rid of someone will look at other cases that have been successful. But as a detective right now, other than being very professional and keeping my distance from the mom, because I am a mom, I would be going backwards. So we'd be looking what's there. We'd be looking at every single piece of footage that we could from every piece of CCTV along that route. And to me, somebody, and we may not know in the media what's going on, and neither should we know everything, because I say that can jeopardize our cases. And Phil will agree with me. Sometimes we want to do things to the media because they do jeopardize cases, but somebody somewhere knows something. There's a mom has not been gone for 3 days with a child, not eaten, not stopped for fuel. Somebody somewhere knows something, and the police don't have to tell us at this point. I don't, the term missing is correct, because we haven't got a body, thankfully, because while we haven't got a body, we have some hope. But yes, something untoward has gone on, and we have to go backwards, and we have to go to everything, every single stone unturned. And the detectives working this case, as you said, literally won't be sleeping. Literally, it's a young child that's missing, and everything's got to be looked at.
Yeah. Some final questions and final thoughts here. Huge thanks to Michael Clayton, originally from Arkansas, now living in Central California. But Michael, to you, and we talked about this a little bit, but just hypothetically speaking now, if investigators somehow come to the conclusion that Melodee was harmed, and we hope that that's not the case, but they have no details. They don't know where, when, how complicated is it to, number one, charge a case like that, but then prosecute it? It seems like a jury would want to know some of these answers.
Well, you got two types of evidence. You got direct evidence. Did the pen hit my hand? And you got indirect evidence. Did the pen hit my hand? You didn't see it, but maybe it's there or not. They're going to have a lot of circumstantial evidence in this case. That's what they've got. They don't have really any direct evidence other than the videos that Nina was telling us about, where they've seen them in different places. But this is all going to come down to a lot of speculation as to what. And they really need the body, but they don't need the body to proceed forward with a criminal charge against the lady. But the body would extremely help to be able to prove what exactly happened and where this lady finally ended up losing her life, if that's the case.
By the way, Michael used the word lady, and it's funny, sort of, kind of, because I just interviewed Dick Harpootlian, who said he was litigating a case in California very recently, and he referred to, I think, the defendant as so-and-so, this lovely lady, and he said he's never taken such heat in California for being politically incorrect. It is a woman. It is not a lady, Michael, but you're from Arkansas, and he's from the South.
What do I know about California? I'm from Arkansas. That's right. I don't know. I moved to a blue Smurf, California, and so that's where I'm at. Loving it.
Michael, how do you think this, if you look in your crystal ball, does this end with some sort of miraculous finding of Melodee, or does this end, as Phil thinks, in an unfortunate way? What do you think?
Well, and Phil also has been back there on his motorcycle, and there's thousands of places you could put a body back there and never find that body ever again. So my crystal ball is going to say that I think she's going to be charged. And if you don't charge her, then she just walks. So if you charge her and you can stick it to her, then maybe you got a chance. And if find the body, I think they're going to file a charge. If they do find the body, they'll absolutely file a charge. So I think it's coming down to the fact that they're just biding their time looking. How long did they have to bring this charge? Well, it's a murder charge. There is no statute of limitations here. We just want to find this person as soon as possible. So the sooner the better to get a hold and to prosecute if the little girl is dead. If the little girl is found, then all this will probably go away, and that's just the way it went. So I believe the little girl is not alive because somebody would have said something by now, or she has been secreted away and is being kidnapped of some sort. Can't really speculate more than that. But you know what? They're going to charge the mother. I don't believe that they're going to let her walk away without charging her. The problem is going to be, where did the mother go? Because we don't know where the mother is at this moment. She's got no control, no watchdog over her, no pretrial services. She could just disappear. And then where does that put the case?
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
One more. Give us 3 cents. So here, by the way, they're eliminating the penny from the United States Mint. No more pennies to save those pennies. She lives on she lives on Social Security, Michael, apparently. Is there a way legally to stop those payments to make her speak, or no?
No, I don't see anything legal about that. The lady's going to keep getting her Social Security payment. She's innocent till proven guilty, period. So I'm going to stand by the Constitution on that. And I don't see her losing anything until they convict her. And I believe that they're going to charge her at some point. I believe they're not going to let this go by. And the DA's office was very keen on trying to get her for anything. And they tried on something that had no merit. And so that's how it went. And at a preliminary hearing, you don't need much at all. And they had nothing. But they're really working on trying to hold this lady here so the FBI can finish their job.
I feel like Michael needs a reality show out in Santa Maria, if that's the proper name. Nina Hobson, retired UK homicide detective, but she's far from retired. She's working all the time, and her passion is, human and sex trafficking. She's out there looking for victims. One of the questions that came up, Nina, is there the possibility that she's got some sort of help here if Melodee is still alive, that she's, got someone on the Colorado, Utah border that's taken this child in? What do you do about that, and your final thoughts?
Taking the child in as to protect, or taking the child in to sex traffic?
Let's go with the latter.
Look, the reality is, if the young girl is being sex trafficked, it's a better reality than if she's dead. And if she's been sex trafficked, there's hope we can get her home. Not home to mom, unless there's a lot of work gone into that situation, but we can get her home. So let's just hope and pray that it's that rather than the real latter.
Yeah. Detective Phil Ramos, the guy drives a Harley. He's got a ponytail. He's got both ears pierced. He's a 3-time Vegas Officer of the Year. He's been in a few fist fights, I'm sure. He's gotten shot at. He's infiltrated the Cuban mob. He's been a homicide detective. Name me someone else that's done all that. Plus, he's got a great killer tan all the time. I'm always worried about Phil being on his motorcycle. You got to be careful out there, Phil. Let's end where we started, which is the passage of time. Again, I believe it's like October 9th or 10th, the last time Melodee is seen. Today is November 20th. As a very seasoned investigator, does that pit remain in your stomach, and your final thoughts tonight?
Yeah, that's our biggest enemy. Is time goes by, you don't make any forward progress. Time's our enemy, man. And regardless of what her situation is, the longer you go with no progress, the less likely you are to come to a good conclusion. And evidence disappears, witnesses disappear. Let's just pray for this little girl.
That's coming from a homicide detective. I think that's maybe all we can do is pray right now. Another best guest in true crime panel, living up to the name, Michael Clayton. And in Arkansas, is that how is that the correct Is that how you refer to someone from Arkansas, an Arkansan?
And I'm
Michael?
from Arkansas. Yeah, I'm an Arkansan.
Yeah.
Noah saw it. It was in the Bible. Noah opened the door, and Noah saw Noah's on the ark and saw. Noah was on the ark and saw. So it's in the Bible, Arkansas.
There you go. And now he's in California. The guy needs a reality show. Michael, thank you for being here. Nina Hobson, thank you. Phil Ramos, thank you. Guests, stick around for 1 second so I can thank you properly. Love you all. Love you, California. Love you, California. Love you, Vegas. And let's find Melodee, Melodee Buzzard. If anyone knows anything, call the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office. That's the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office. Or just call 911 if you know something, say something. Love you all. See you at 1 o'clock tomorrow with Carm.